In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a very useful picture setting on Philips' new OLED TV to reduce motion blur, and how it could potentially be the solution for improving motion clarity on OLED televisions. Coming right up. Hi everyone, this is Vincent from HDTV Test here. I'm a professional TV reviewer and calibrator. In this channel, we do scientific TV reviews, settings tips and tricks, video interviews, and also the odd unboxing video. So if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing below. We've been testing this new 901F OLED TV from Philips for the past couple of weeks, and we've discovered one awesome feature that can increase motion clarity and reduce motion blur for all types of content. So I'll just get right into the user menu to show you. If I pull up the user menu, go to the picture settings, and go to the motion related menu, you will see two options: perfect natural motion and perfect clear motion. I'll switch both off and explain them. Perfect natural motion is basic motion compensated frame interpolation, which injects artificial frames in between the original video frames to smooth out motion and increase motion sharpness. Even though it can reduce motion blur, perfect natural motion can introduce interpolation artifacts, especially when there's complex movement on screen. I'll show you. If we engage perfect natural motion by setting it to minimum, and if we put up a test pattern, our own custom authored interpolation detector test pattern, this consists of a black and white checkerboard floating on the screen against smaller checkerboards. You can see, I don't know whether you can see this, but I can certainly see various shimmering artifacts surrounding the black and white checkerboard, and also the individual squares breaking up. This is caused by the inability of the in-TV processor to recognize and correctly apply the frame interpolation. It can't be precise enough to decide which part should be interpolated and which part shouldn't. Enabling perfect natural motion also introduced another side effect called the soap opera effect. Now, films are essentially captured at 24 and distributed, well, most films anyway, most movies are captured and distributed at 24 frames per second. Enabling perfect natural motion will speed up the frame rate to 60 Hz per second. This is a scene from the Disney movie WALL-E, where he's going into space. You can see that as the spaceship actually goes through the galaxy, it is far too smooth. 24 frames per second material is meant to be slightly dreamy, slightly surreal. This is what we call the filmic or the cinematic look. Now, if you increase the frame rate to 60 Hz per second by engaging perfect natural motion, what you're actually doing is to destroy the entire fabric of the film look or the cinematic look. It makes movies look like a cheaply shot camcorder video or a soap opera such as EastEnders or Coronation Street, hence the term soap opera effect. So in other words, I would really advise you to keep perfect natural motion off at all times. Now maybe you can see this from the camera, but once I switch perfect natural motion off, you can see the panning shots becoming slightly choppier. This is inherent in the 24 Hz. This sort of judder is called a 24 Hz judder. Now there is another motion setting in the user menu that should resolve this to a certain extent. If we go to the motion menu again, and we switch on perfect clear motion, this will enable 5:5 pull down on this particular television, and panning shots will look slightly smoother. Engaging perfect clear motion also imparts another benefit. If we switch it off, okay, This is a test pattern we normally use in our TV reviews to measure motion resolution. If I pause this video, you can see that the test pattern is made out of various columns. Each column will have 4 lines running from thick at the top of the screen to very thin at the bottom of the screen. At various thickness level, it is actually assigned as a number assigned: 150, 170, 200, 250, 300, so on and so forth. If I start playing the video, some of the lines will merge together because of motion blurring. The level at which we can still reliably discern all 4 lines is what we call the motion resolution. You probably can't see it from the camera, but I can clearly see that on this display, this Philips OLED, the level at the motion resolution is around 300, because that is the level at which I can still differentiate all 4 lines. 300 lines of motion resolution is very common for sample and hold displays on this particular test pattern. Now, if we go into the user menu of this Philips TV and switch on the perfect clear motion, let's see what happens with the motion resolution. Right? You probably can't see it from the camera again, but from where I'm sitting now, I can see that the motion clarity has improved quite substantially. The level at which I can see 4 lines is around 650. So the motion resolution has actually doubled, more than doubled, from 300 lines to 650 lines. Now, this is quite an amazing achievement by Philips, because it is definitely not frame interpolation. And the reason I say so is this: if we get out from the user menu and go back to the interpolation detector test pattern that I've shown you before, okay, as the black and white checkerboard is moving around the screen, I can't see any shimmering artifacts or any breaking up of the black and white boxes. This, in my opinion, means that frame interpolation is not being applied, even with perfect clear motion switched on. And as the words scroll against the background, you can't see any artifacts whatsoever in terms of shimmering, haloing, breaking up, tearing. What Philips has actually achieved here is, in my opinion, is actually quite remarkable, because they have probably implemented some sort of backlight scanning or backlight strobing that is probably an evolution of the clear LCD technology. The reason I say that is because even in the user menu itself, when you go to the perfect natural motion menu, even though it is labeled as perfect clear motion, in the description it's still saying that clear LCD offers a superior motion sharpness, a better black level, and high contrast. Now, clear LCD is a technology that Philips has invented for their LCD displays that also achieve the sort of motion sharpness without introducing any interpolation artifacts or soap opera effect. We think that it is some sort of backlight scanning, and it is really quite good to see the company bring it to the OLED displays as well. By switching on perfect clear motion, this Philips 901F OLED TV actually provided the highest natural motion resolution that we've seen from any 4K OLED television without needing the help of frame interpolation. Now, when we look through, we've reviewed OLEDs from 4 brands so far, from Samsung, from LG, from Panasonic, and also from Philips. If we look through the history of the OLED television that we have reviewed, only the Samsung S9C OLED, which was introduced in late 2013, had black frame insertion, and it did boost motion resolution even up to 1080 lines, but it introduced visible flicker and a drop in screen brightness. The remarkable thing about Philips implementation is that there's no visible flicker, at least to our human eyes. There's no visible flicker, and there's no screen dimming at all, which is really fantastic news. We are not entirely sure how Philips has achieved this, but we genuinely think that this is the clearest and the sharpest artifact-free motion that we've ever seen from a 4K OLED TV. So, in summary, in the motion menu settings of the Philips OLED television, you should generally switch perfect natural motion off and perfect clear motion on to get the 24p handling for 1080p material, and also to get a higher motion resolution without suffering from soap opera effect or interpolation artifacts. If you found this video useful, please give it a like and subscribe to the HDTV Test YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you the next time.